Right, ready for a deep dive. Today, we're going way back, like 12th century back.
Oh, yeah. It's that far.
That's right. We're tackling the unusual story of Roland the Farter.
Yeah.
The Farter. It's all
The-
right there in the history books.
Intriguing. So where are we getting all this information?
Well, our main source is a Wikipedia article, believe it or not. And it's all about Roland the Farter.
A Wikipedia article, huh? Well, you never know what gems you'll find there. So lay it on me. Who was this Roland, and how did he make a name for himself, so to speak?
He was an entertainer in 12th century England. And his, shall we say, unique talent involved, well, passing gas.
You're kidding, right?
Nope, totally serious. And get this, he was so good at it that King Henry II granted him land for it.
No, wait a minute. You're telling me that this guy was given land because he could fart?
You heard right. Hemmingstone Manor in Suffolk, plus
Yeah.
30 acres, the catch. He had to perform for the king every Christmas.
Wow. All right, you got to tell me more about this performance. Was it just a simple,
It gets even more specific and honestly even more fascinating.
Really? Okay, I'm all ears.
So the Liber Feodorum, which is basically like a medieval record book of like land and obligations, it says Roland had to do a saltum siffletum pedum.
Hold on, what was that?
It means he had to jump, whistle, and fart all at the same time.
You're serious? Like an official documented duty?
Totally official. It was a condition of holding his land. And it was in a royal document, for crying out loud.
Incredible. So we're talking about a guy whose talent was officially recognized and valued by the king. That's wild. And it brings up an interesting point, this whole system of sergeanty.
Sergeanty, fill me in. What is that exactly?
Well, think of it as medieval land tenure. People got land, right? But they had to do specific things for the king in return.
Ah, so like a trade-off. Land for services.
Exactly. Usually it was things like serving in the army or, taking care of administrative stuff. But Roland, well, his service was a little different.
So instead of battling it out on the battlefield, Roland's duty was to entertain the king with his unique abilities. That's amazing.
It really makes you wonder what other strange things people did to hold on to their land back then, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So I gotta ask, just how lucrative was this profession? I mean, was he comfortable?
Oh, he wasn't doing too bad. Roland had something like 110 acres in total.
Wow. And just to compare, how much did a regular farmer have back then?
Oh, they probably only had like 5 to 30 acres, something like that. So yeah, Roland was doing pretty well.
Okay, so this wasn't just a silly bit. It was like a serious and apparently pretty successful career. It's like he was a medieval farting celebrity.
You're not wrong. It makes you think about what his neighbors must have thought, having a professional farter living right there.
I can only imagine the dinner party conversations. And it makes me curious about Roland's family life. His son, Hubert, inherited the manor, right?
Yep, he did. And even had his own kids, too.
So, I wonder, what was it like growing up in a household where, well, your dad was known for,
Yeah.
that?
It's a good question. Did they encourage little Hubert to follow in his footsteps? Or maybe they nudged him towards something a little more conventional. We can only imagine. It's a side of history you don't often think about, These little glimpses into the lives of regular folks, the weird stuff that makes it all come alive.
I know, right? And it makes you think about how things worked back then. I mean, can you imagine being at court when Roland did his thing? Were people like politely clapping? Or were they
Yeah.
trying not to burst out laughing?
Man, that's a great image. And the pressure. Imagine if he was having an off day.
Sorry, Your Majesty, not really feeling it today. I guess you'd have to like load up on beans and cabbage before the big show.
Maybe. But really, it makes you think about entertainment back then. Like compared to everything we've got now, movies, TV, the internet. It's wild to think that something like that was so valued.
Right. It totally challenges all those ideas we have about the past.
Yeah, back then there wasn't all this technology and stuff. So live entertainment was a big deal. A really big deal.
Yeah. And in a world that was often pretty rough, I bet a good laugh was really something special, even if it came from, well,
Absolutely. It tells you something about what people valued back then.
for sure. It makes you wonder about the role of the jester, too.
Oh, yeah. They weren't just there to be funny. They could get away with saying things other people couldn't,
So maybe Roland, just by, well, doing what he did, could make some subtle points about the king or society or whatever, all while making people laugh.
Exactly. What seemed like a simple act might have been a way of sneaking in some criticism.
Wow. So he wasn't just a farting entertainer. Maybe he was like a social commentator.
Possibly. And there's even more. Some people think he might have performed for Henry VI too, the king before Henry II.
Seriously.
Yeah.
So maybe he had this whole, like, farting dynasty thing going on. Makes you wonder, what would be considered that level of talent today? Would it be like a TikTok star?
Huh? Who knows? Would they be celebrated? Or would they be seen as, a joke?
That's a good question. It really makes you think about how our ideas of entertainment have changed so much.
And it shows how important it is to, look beyond the surface of things, to really try to understand what was going on back then.
I agree. History isn't just about big events and famous people, right? It's about the everyday lives of regular folks. And sometimes those lives were, well, kind of weird.
Yeah, they were. And those weird details, they're what make history so interesting, don't you think?
Absolutely. So let's do a quick recap of what we've learned about Roland. This guy, in the 12th century, he could fart really well. So well that he got land and recognition from the king.
Right. And we learned about sergeanty, this medieval land system,
Yeah.
and how entertainment was different back then, and how people really valued a good laugh.
Exactly. And it makes you think, right, what we might see as just silly or gross now could have been a path to success back then.
It really does.
It reminds us that history is full of surprises and that we should maybe not judge the past by our standards today.
Well said. It's definitely a story that makes you think, isn't it?
It is. And with that, we want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Roland the Farter.
Always a pleasure.
And to our listeners, we hope you learned something new and maybe even had a laugh or two along the way. Until next time, keep those minds curious and those, gaseous.
Yeah.
It's amazing how what started as this funny little story about a guy who could fart turned into a real deep dive into history.
I know. It's funny how that happens. Roland's tale has really shown us a different side of the world back then, but at the same time, it's like we all still want the same things, like entertainment, a good laugh.
Yeah, totally. And it's crazy how much our ideas about what's considered talented have changed.
Right. Imagine if Roland tried to make it today.
I don't even know what he'd do. Like stand-up comedy,
Mhm.
reality TV.
Who knows? But would it even be considered entertaining? Or would people just be grossed out?
I guess it all depends on how he presented it. Maybe he could be like a spokesperson for, I don't know, Beano or something.
Maybe, maybe. But I think the bigger point is that it makes us think about what we consider entertainment today. Like, what do we value?
Yeah, good point. History isn't just about learning what happened way back when. It's about understanding how people saw things and how that's different from how we see things now.
Exactly. And sometimes it's just about appreciating the weirdness of it all.
Totally. Well, as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of Roland the Farter, we'll leave you with this. What does Roland's story tell us about how entertainment, talent, and humor have changed over time?
And how can we learn from history, even the funny, strange parts, to understand ourselves better today?
We hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and made you want to explore more of history's hidden corners. Remember, the past is full of surprises. Until next time, keep your minds open, your questions coming, and those. Well, you get the idea.